joining us. High noon. It's high noon. We're a little bit late, 5 minutes late or so. And then suddenly I think I'm going to have to sneeze, but goodness gracious, what are you going to do? Ladies and germs, I'm going to hand it off to D here. Go for it.
What's going on, everybody? This show is like yesterday. It's for educational and entertainment purposes only. You have to be 21 and over to be here. If not, you have to get the flying flock out. Back to you, Fumi.
A flock of seagulls, a flock of hummingbirds, a flock of assholes. It doesn't matter what kind of flock it is, but get the flock out if you are not an adult of adulting age or some shit. I don't even know. Ladies and gentlemen, like Dee said, the show is for educational and entertainment purposes only, for adults only. Please, whatever your local rules dictate, for example, if being an adult is 68 where you live, I don't even fucking know. Please follow your local rules. I couldn't possibly be responsible for your keeping your own nose clean. So please keep your own nose clean,
Oh,
honestly. It's your responsibility. Please do remember that we are medical growers. Most of us, a few of us, I guess, are rec growers and stuff. We don't discriminate against that, but please do remember that we are quite serious about what we do. We're not playing games. We're not goofing off. We're not, well, we are in the sense of don't emulate anything that we're doing, but we personally, for ourselves, are not goofing off. So thank you very much. But in the meantime, you're welcome to join us. You're welcome to come hang with us. We like to say, come hang, don't show your wang. Don't be a dick, don't show your dick. That's pretty much the big rule to come and join the panel if you'd like to. Excuse me. I'm gonna either sneeze or hiccup or both. Looks like we might have a couple or at least one new viewer. Cheers, Mad Dog from I'm bad with flags. Is that the UK? I think that's the UK.
UK,
Yep, that's the UK.
the
Cheers, Mad
Union
Dog.
Jack.
Good to see you. Actually, I guess I'm not that bad with flags, but I can be somewhat bad. You know what? I'm bad with the UK colony flags because fuck off. They all use like a little version of the Union Jack. Anyway, or versions of the Union Jack. It's very confusing. Of course, all of you guys in the Commonwealth are like, well, it's not confusing at all. I know the flag of Trinidad and Tobago. Yeah, fuck off. Cheers, Chaos. Good to see you. Cheers, Operation Annihilation. Welcome to the show. Bonsoir, Christophe. It's evening time for him, so evening puffs for Christophe. And of course, first in the chat is Bud Kilowatt with a green light. Good to see you, Bud. Always a pleasure when you are quick on the button with the first, as always, or as often. Anyway, ladies and germs, if you want to join the panel, you're more than welcome to. Don't Please don't assume that there's some exclusive panel that is from upon high or some dumb shit. This is definitely supposed to be a conversational show. Welcome to all participants, as long as you act like a civilized goddamn adult. It's really a very low bar. We don't really have to enforce it that often, but every once in a while we have to remind people, please don't talk down to anybody in the panel. We've gotten a few complaints recently, more than a few complaints, honestly, and it's been kind of over time. But hey, that's okay. Maybe it's my fault for not being a little bit more assiduous about the reminders. But long story short, nobody on the panel is immune from the rules. You guys are not allowed to talk down to anybody. I don't care if it's someone on the panel, someone off the panel, someone that we're hypothetically talking about on another fucking moon somewhere. Doesn't goddamn matter. It doesn't matter if it's your favorite character on Netflix or least favorite character on Netflix. We're not going to talk down to anyone. That's not this kind of show. So please do remember, whatever, if you're in the chat, not on the chat, if you're a lurker, if you're on the panel, whatever, you're basically not, I guess if you're a lurker, you can say whatever the fuck you want because we can't hear you. But the rest of you, if we can see or hear your speech, you need to make sure to follow some civilized rules. Welcome, by the way, to the lurkers. I guess that's I hadn't ever thought of that. You guys have more privileges than the rest of us because you can sit there and talk to yourself and say any fucking thing you want because fuck, we can't hear it. So you could be all mean and shitty, or you could be all super nice. You guys can say whatever you want. Hey, what do you know? But
Okay.
you guys are welcome to say hello in the chat. We really just ask that you don't act like an asshole. So if that's the thing that you need to do, stay a lurker. But if you're perfectly happy to not be a jerk off, hey, just say hello in the chat. We have a lot of pleasant people here, and we'd love to say hello to you on the panel. I'd love to see some new gardens. I'd love to see, at least in the northern hemisphere, so to speak. Well, not so to speak, literally in the northern hemisphere, it's basically flowering season. I'm actually shocked that I'm basically probably halfway through flower with most of my outdoor plants. Couple plants have only recently started flowering, so I think a couple plants probably will finish probably late October. So hey, that might be spicy. But Let me think. Which ones are probably going to finish later? I think the White Runts is going to finish later. Uh,
Right.
Interesting one because that's a different cut than I had before. I thought it was the same cut. It might be a different cut, honestly. So perhaps it was a different phenotype of that White Runs cut. Anyway, growing a little bit slower than I expected it to, or maybe it's just not adapted to the outdoors. Anyway, we don't have to go through my whole freaking catalog of outdoor plants, but I definitely have a couple things that are shit. I don't even know. I mean, based on experience, I'd say they're in week 4 already. I'm expecting them to freaking nug up basically right away. They're well past crowning. A couple, I think, are done with stretching. So yeah, I'd say a couple. Maybe we're still in week 3. Maybe we're still in week 3 for a few of them, but man, we're getting ahead. I figured September 4th, I wouldn't even hardly be starting. Last year, I guess we artificially delayed everything because the crazy fucking move that I had last year and everything. I surprisingly had to put everything outdoors. So I needed to make sure, or tried to make sure that they could have a few weeks or a couple weeks at least to veg. Ended up being a total disaster anyway. I probably should have just let them flip the flower right away. But what are you gonna do? So we definitely, I think, didn't even let them flower until maybe the first week of September, something like that. Anyway, completely different year, completely different. Cheers, folks in the chat, by the way. Jones N2 Grows in the chat. Big Chirps in the chat. Who else is hanging? Of course, D is in the chat. Good to see you. Christophe is saying La Puissance. That's basically the power from La Mort d'Arthur by Mallory. Interestingly enough, written in English, but he titled it in French. But what are you going to do? All the knights are basically assholes that fight with each other just endlessly, just fucking endlessly. They fight with each other, they kill each other, they break each other's skulls in half. It's really, really brutal. And you remember, oh right, that whole chivalric culture, actually, the culture of chivalry, rather. No, I guess they call it chivalric culture, whatever the fuck it is. Basically a cover for just incredible violence. Like they basically pretended to be very, very knightly and blah blah blah, but actually they're just all fucking jousting with each other to the death. Oh shit, that guy winked at me. I'm gonna fucking duel him to the death. Cheers, Big Terp. Good to see you. He's saying D instead of saying Fumi first. All right, Big Terp. It's duel to the death under
You shall not pass.
rules. I'm kidding, Big Terp. Don't worry. You don't have to get your swords out. He's like, shit. I haven't sharpened my swords in years. God damn it, motherfuckers.
Uh-oh, sword fight.
I have a certain set of skills. Secretly, he's Liam Neeson, basically. Yeah, that's right. Wouldn't it be funny if Liam Neeson actually watched my show? This very bizarre set of conversational diagonals brought to you by Surf Grape, which I smoked before the show. So I'm proudly happy to respond. Oh shit, I got both computers up, so now my mouses are doing mouse shit. All right, this is very annoying. Now I have to figure out where my cursor went. Damn it, stuck on this computer. It's very annoying. All right, come back. Come back. Motherfucker, I need you back. Oh, son of a bitch. There we go. The zombie says, you shall not pass. Put your arms off. Welcome, folks, though. Welcome, everyone in the chat. You guys are, like I said, welcome to hop on here. Please just ask for the link. That's all you need to do. We don't pin the link anymore. I'm going to make D the co-host here so that he can let people in too. There you go. Boom. Speaking of which, oh, here comes North Star. What's going on, D? Welcome, buddy.
What's going on, Phoebe? What's going on, panel? Hope everyone's having a great day. Thanks for coming in, hanging out. I'm still
Yo.
smoking on my peripheral of different strains. Actually, right now I'm smoking on extra. I want to get some of this extra
Oh,
down a bit so it just doesn't go old and bad. There we go. Um, Not much else is going on. Just hanging out. It's a nice day out there. Cheers, everybody.
cheers, D.
Cheers.
Buddy. Welcome. Um, what was I gonna say? Welcome, North Star. I was thinking before the show, I was like, oh, I wonder if North Star is gonna hop on. I was like, oh, maybe we could totally do a whole conversational segment on the show about testers. We certainly don't have to. I don't want to catch you off guard, but I was
Yeah.
thinking about it basically because I'm hoping to send out testers basically in the next few days. So of course, it's been on my mind, right? So I've been thinking to myself, I think it's been an active conversation for quite some time now. A lot of breeders, I think, stopped doing testing programs. Anyway, we don't have to hijack that right now. We can say hello to you first. Welcome. What's going on, Michael?
Kind of warm day. Been out doing taking care of watering orchards and taking care of greenhouses, all that fun stuff as usual. Um, I got some greenhouses that are come winding in here. I got 2 weeks to go before I start harvesting one. Nice mix of stuff, and then like about a week and a half after that one, next one starts coming down. So I got a bunch of harvesting coming in my future, and let's see, I got seedlings all going for a nice holiday harvest this year indoor. They're looking good. I'm hopefully I can get them sexed out in the next,
Hmm.
3 weeks or so I can get them planted and ready to go and flip for early October flip. And then I've got all the LA Confidential's been and Sour Bubble, all the older stuff and from DNA Genetics I have going. Mr. Marshall Meagram, that's all been re-vegged. The LA and Sour Bubble have been cloned. I actually have a couple of them going into a seed run with the double barreled. That's Bubba Kush times Alcatraz. Going to be crossed a couple of those things to play with. So I got to dabble in a bunch of little things here all over the place. Just having a good time.
Sounds exciting. I honestly forget. You've told us this before, and I just forget. Do you run light depths, or are you basically in that area? Because Bud Kilowatt is almost year round. He's at like basically flowering schedule, so he basically has to keep things vegging outdoors more than letting them flower. Are you down so far? I don't feel like you're
Now
that far south.
I'm about an
But do
hour
you
north of
depth?
San Fran, so
Gotcha. So do you still depth things, or what do you do? How do you get them to flower so early?
I like that everything. And then
Oh,
as far as my actual like outdoor plants, my outdoor here, everything here usually starts for me starts flowering like early mid July for the most
oh,
part. It's usually
really?
going,
Oh,
yeah.
huh.
I'm slightly on the north side of a hill a little bit, so I lose about an hour off the beginning and end of the day sometimes a little bit like that. But most of my outdoor, unless it's straight up like Colombian or Panama or something that's pure sativa, I'm gonna have most of that in almost all the time by around Halloween at the latest.
Hmm.
Some stuff goes a little later, like I said, but usually it's a Halloween harvest or earlier, depending on what it is. If it's something like a Dark Desire,
Hmm.
that's like middle of September coming in. Usually that starts flowering hard in July and goes July, August, and it's ready to come down already. So
It's interesting. You can see, I think, a lot about the genetics of the plants, even if people mislabeled it or whatever. I think you can glean a lot of information from these plants about how early they start flowering, how soon they finish, and so on. Like we were just talking about. I guess I was talking about a little bit before the show that I was like, well, shoot, a couple of my things, I don't have nearly as many plants as you get to have in your greenhouses, but I have a few plants outdoors, and a couple of them are basically just about half done already. I was honestly surprised. I thought to myself, because I didn't keep them, vegging this year like I did last year, and I'm fairly new to outdoor weed growing, right? I've only done it a couple times outdoors, so still learning basically with it. I'm really surprised that, for example, Sour Morgana, Lemon Tree, what else? Shoot, one other thing. Half the plant of goji pie is basically halfway done already. Seriously, probably late week 3, early week 4, and some things have only just barely, I think, started flowering. We haven't even really crowned yet with white runts. What else? Oh, my Sour Morgana daughter. So interestingly enough, Sour Morgana mom is already basically half done practically, or at least in week 3, and the Sour Morgana daughter is just barely starting to flower, basically right next to her, literally with the same amount of light and everything. They're plants right next to each other. So it's interesting to see the influence of the different genetics, right? The difference between the Sour Morgana mom and the Sour Morgana or a daughter is that I interjected a father that basically had a totally different line, or at least a very different line, because of course weeds all inbred these days. But no, it's fascinating to kind of analyze that a little bit, right? Stuff that probably was a little bit northern, stuff that was a little bit southern, and also to remind ourselves that it's not 12-12 that flowers stuff, right? Like as we're seeing some stuff when we're looking at the
oh yeah,
chemicals, Some stuff's flowering already at 14 hours, right? That's not supposed to happen, right? A lot of people try to veg their stuff at 14 hours to save money. No wonder you have all these problems with weird plants and stuff from people, right? So anyway.
I mean, I find it for myself pretty easy in my bedroom that I have, a multitude of lights on different timers. I have them run for, X amount of time to have like 3 or 4 hours off and then on again and 3 or 4 hours off. But there's multiple lights on different timers. So at any stage, there's a couple lights that are off and the rest of them are all on. It's just they kind of switch off and on. So there's always full light in there 24/7. It's just some plants have it intense over top of them. Some plants get a little break every now and then. It kind of moves around the light in my room.
Hmm.
So I never have darkness. It's always full 24/7 in the bedroom, but the lights rarely are on for more than say, 16 hours in a day. Any individual light. And then my greenhouses, I just stick a little clip light from like Home Depot in tops of them, run them on a timer, and then when I still light them so I don't have light shooting in my yard everywhere when they're vegging. And then I basically just turn the lights off, and then I continue closing them up like I normally would, and then they start flowering. Just and even this time of year now, I could get away without continually covering them, but I still do because I'm running dehumidifiers in there. It gets a little colder, I'll have a heater on, and I just feel like I get a little bit extra insulation layer, a little bit of air cushion between the two layers of plastic and everything. It just any little bit helps. It only takes me 10 minutes to go cover them all, so I'm just in the routine of doing it every night.
It's a lot of work though, still. Seriously, I guess maybe it's that routine that you're used to. I've seen people do it and it seems like a tremendous amount of work. I guess it also depends a little bit on your greenhouses, right? Some of them I think are easier to pull those curtains over than others. And then some of them, oh my God, some of those fancy ones that they have the auto movers and stuff. How fancy would that be?
I wish. Now mine are all I pull them over by hand. My wife helps me pull them over. I don't think my greenhouses are but 7.5, maybe 8 foot tallest one. So we can kind of just pull them over. It's not that tough.
I got you.
Yeah, the biggest hassle is just it's a commitment to where you always make sure I'm always home by a certain time all the time. I pretty much don't go anywhere for 6 months out of the year because I'm pulling
That's
covers.
it. You're tied to the grow, right? Yeah, more
the
than
automatic
even the
cover
regular indoor grower.
Yeah.
How funny is that? Because we've talked about this, like an indoor grower. Bud Kilowatt has said this before. You could probably, like with his setup, basically with the hydro setup, he can time it so he can leave for about 4 days. So he can leave for one of his Grateful Dead shows. He can, fly there, stay for a couple of days, and come back. Any longer than that, and things are going to go haywire. And for example, like a soil grow, you could probably time it about that too, 3-4 days, something like that, right? But that's so interesting that you couldn't even leave for like one day. I mean, maybe you could leave for one day, like if you didn't dep them one day, it's probably not gonna fuck up the grow. But like 2 days, oh shit, you'd have to be right back. How funny.
Well, this time of year now, since everything's kind of going flower, I have a little more leeway. I could definitely get away for a few days, but still, I think I'm going to be getting close to 90 today, possibly. I'm gonna have to make sure I'm on top of the watering because they're only 10-gallon fabric pots. So they're gonna be sucking that water down. So I gotta keep on that too. Now I remember years ago we used to do all the shows. Any show that was within like a 2-hour drive of my house to the Bay Area, I would drive home every night to close up after the show, open them up in the morning, and drive back to the show, set the booth up. It was a royal pain in the ass. And then we had to go away. I literally had to have somebody here to take care of plants. So that just a hassle.
I remember I haven't heard from him for a long time. Do you remember Sid Avery? He used to work with Subcool a number of years ago. Younger guy. Well, he's probably not that young anymore, but he was probably in his early 20s at the time. Anyway, I guess his family had a farm or a couple different farms, I think, maybe in the family. And then he also worked for people like worked for Sub and so on. So between all the different farms he worked on, again, like 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, he fucking watered 300 or 400 plants a day. And so he said he was watering from morning until night, literally morning until night, every single fucking day of the summer.
My goodness.
Can you imagine that shit? Oh my God.
Yeah, I was just actually figuring today, like what am I doing every day long? Like 7 days a week. I pretty much between the veg room and the greenhouses and everything, it's about 2 hours a day just of making sure they're watered and then taking a walk through, looking at stuff, looking for any kind of problems, just surveying and watering the plants. Does not include transplanting, cutting clones, trimming, cleaning up. I mean, there's I spend over 20 hours a week just watering and inspecting the plants as I'm walking by. When you start adding in all the other features of it, it's easily 40 hours a week on average of everything going in. And then I still have the property to take care of. That's where I even find time to sleep sometimes.
That's so funny.
I get going and busy, but I'm
haven't even asked
getting the
you.
schedule down. Get a lot done in the morning. I can take a little break in the afternoon. I get some more done, and then I got now it's time of year. I have school pickup, so I go get kids. And I come home. I do house cleaning, cooking dinner, then back out to anything I got to wrap up in the evening. So it's a pretty busy schedule. I got a big project for myself coming up here soon. My deck that I have made up here. I built it during the COVID when there was a lot of shortage of supplies, and I kind of only I could find for his underlayment was this cheesy ass made in Thailand underlayment material that I put down on top of my deck that I screwed down and laminated down. Well, I figured I was going to have it wrapped up with fiberglass soon enough so it wouldn't be an issue because it's not exterior grade, and now it's come back to bite me in the ass. A bunch of sections of it are delaminating on itself just from the heat of the deck, causing the glue to peel apart. So I have to actually go back in now and stand off the top of my deck. I have to go in and cut some marks through the fiberglass in through that first layer of the underlayment wood and pour resin into it to try to get wood resin between all layers so I can relaminate this shit back together again. Get the whole deck sanded back off again. I'm going to put a layer of fiberglass over the whole thing again and do it all over. So it's about a week-long project of deck repair and refinishing.
This is not what you were talking about, but it reminded me of the Portland Airport remodel pictures. There we go. The Portland, I went there the other day, and it's fucking nutty what they did to the Portland Airport. Next time you guys fly into Portland, you'll be like, holy shit. They made it very modern, but also very Oregon. They used all this laminate. Here, I'll just show you all these pictures because I guess they all paint the picture a little bit better than any one picture. So I guess here you go. So basically all of this is essentially shaped laminated wood. And probably most people I think at this point know that Oregon is known for trees, timber, logging, right? We have a history for that. We still have quite a bit of logging. I grew up next to a logging company. A bunch of people I used to know when I was a kid were loggers. Anyway, so they totally redid this basically the whole terminal actually, like redid how the flow goes and everything, and added all this there's like living trees and shit inside of it. It's
Cool.
really quite charming, honestly. But anyway, that's one of the new high technologies. It's really kind of amusing to me. I've heard many times that if wood didn't exist, whoever invented it would basically instantly win the Nobel Prize because it's so fucking useful. And one of the most interesting one of the most interesting new construction techniques is to use what is it called? LVL base. I guess there's a couple different versions of it, but basically laminated woods. And so they might be laminated with epoxies or glues. Essentially, they make plywood out of different kinds of timber. So basically they make, how do I put this? Instead of just cladding plywood, they make structural plywood, I guess you could say.
Oh, yeah.
And then they can essentially CNC it, shape it. As you guys saw, all those planks are basically shaped or CNC cut to shape. And that shit is so strong. It's honestly stronger than steel and concrete construction. So, for example, all the skyscrapers in New York that were built with basically, for the most part, um, steel frame, concrete clad construction. These wood buildings, basically with LVL freaking construction, are stronger. They can flex more. They can withstand earthquakes. It's really interesting, right? Like fucking wood houses, and that's some like 21st century technology. But anyway, this shit.
Yeah, I used to build houses on the East Coast for years. We did all kinds of crazy shit. All that beachfront stuff. So we had all the hurricane code stuff to go to. Yeah, we use a lot of power lambs for any kind of space over about 12 foot. We went to a laminate beam usually to make the big vast open spaces.
Cake in a Cup says plywood beams freaked me out the first time I started using them. They're light as fuck. Yeah, compared to a steel beam or shit, but holy cow, seriously. Or in Europe, I saw they actually had they must have had a steel core or something because they were like concrete I-beams. Yeah, I don't remember. I honestly don't know. But
The best
anyway,
thing is too later when you finish in the house. Typical house, you hear a lot of squeaks on the floors and shit like that. You get less of that with these. There's less twisting of the floor joists and everything. It's a more stabilized wood surface. We have less warping afterwards, so you don't get little gaps and air spaces between your subfloor and the joist, which causes all the freaking squeaking in floors when you walk and everything. So it helps.
Yeah,
it makes the construction just go along a lot easier too.
I bet. Because
as
it's
opposed to steel, which I mean, in some
dimensionally
cases,
stable and
steel would
everything.
be
Yeah.
great for straight load bearing, but the ability to use it as the average carpenter is so much easier. You can go ahead and cut it like wood and use it and put it in place. You don't have to hire a special team to come on and weld shit or anything like that. It just saves a lot of money and time, and allows architects to really make bigger spaces too without having to go with special materials and everything. It's good stuff.
Yeah, fascinating. Folks, hop on, join the conversation. We are already basically halfway done with the show, so folks, don't dawdle. It's not going to be going on for another 3 hours or something. We definitely aren't going to be around here much longer. I have a bunch of stuff to do today, so we definitely have to go, and I'm sure Norska has stuff to do as well.
Yeah, I got to be out by 1:30 today.
Hold on, there's a text here coming. I was going to say we should talk about, testing. Oh, I should answer this too here in a second. Since I brought it up, I thought it would be an interesting subject. North Star, what are your thoughts? Nobody else is on here, so I guess it's going to be yours and my thoughts. And Dee, feel free to interject. What are your thoughts on testing, basically? And I guess that's an open-ended subject because there's only the three of us on the show. That could mean testing by yourself. That can mean a testing regime, basically. That's, for example, Subcool used to use. He's not the only one, of course, where he would send out testers for a variety of reasons, either to check stability or just for marketing purposes or a little bit of both, whatever. What
Everything for sure.
Is there still a place for that?
I mean, I prefer my own results. So I can know when I'm talking about flavors or smells. That I think I have a good lockdown on those pretty much, as opposed to other people. I can, they say, oh, it's like a lemon. I get, I'm like, well, it's more gassy than lemon. I mean, sometimes everyone has their own interpretation, a little bit of flavor. So I like to, at least when I'm writing things down, to know what my idea of the flavors are and the effects and everything. Even more so the effects, since I do smoke quite a bit. That when something like hits hard, I'm like, well, that's a really strong one for sure. Because normally I don't feel anything like it gives me a little wobble in my legs or something like that. So I like being able to pick that up myself. For a long time I was sending out testers to everybody. I mean, like I sent testers a sub, like loads of these testers that went out. I mean, I'd send them what he ordered, and then a bunch of freaking test gear to send out. So he would be able to send it to a lot of people. I sent him hundreds at a time to send out to people. So he was sending out a lot of stuff. I had some testers that I just gave him gear to that actually test and is all right. But unfortunately, I find with social media now, anyone that was asked to be a tester, I almost guarantee I'm not going to get any results from that person. Right. It seems so much that I'd say 80% of the people that get seeds that just ask for seeds, I want to test, I grow great, blah, blah, blah. I set up this or that. I'm like, okay. I don't see any results. And then I'm about a 50% chance I'm going to see some seeds on auction for something coming up that they gave them for a free seeds. I'm like, oh, that's got free seeds to sell. That's wonderful. Now, starting a couple of years ago, I had a tester program on the website where I had up to 10 people a year allowed to buy into it. And if they got a certain number of results back, they were automatically renewed for free each year. And I've done that. I didn't do it this year because I didn't need to, because I'm already filled up. Last year, I only accepted one person because I was almost where I wanted to be. I have a dozen testers that I had reliably in different environments sending me back information, pictures, reports, how they grew it, any problems. I get a nice constant feedback from it. And I give them enough seeds where it gets me to test. I get like 30 to 40 varieties a year, solid grow reports in, along with what I test myself. So between that, I can kind of extrapolate the things that I haven't got results yet back, knowing the plants enough that I can get an idea what I should expect from those things. And that's what I go with. That being said, now that last year, actually, I had a contest, somebody won a tester position. So I'll see if I actually get results back from the person that won. I don't know yet. That's an extra person. But like I said, for a couple of years, I was making it available to buy a tester program where you got seeds throughout the year. And people caught shit about, oh, you're paying for testers. I'm like, yeah, because I'm tired of just mailing endless amounts of shit and never getting anything back. And even that, with people that paid for it, only about half of them even gave me results back. Half of them usually just took, well, it's like 12 packs of seeds for, $200. They're like, shit, I'm good to go. I don't need it. Fuck it. I don't even care. So I said about three years now. I had one person last year that bought, so I mean, it's available. I got enough testers that consistently test stuff and send it back to me that now I have my set crew and I test with them. And then other than that, now anyone else that I see grow my stuff that, is actually giving me good feedback. I have a couple people that I've given tester programs to because they just constantly grow my stuff and give me feedback for it. I'm like, thank you. Let me send you something else, and I get more feedback. So they're actually in the program too without buying into it. They just people that
Why
are
is it so
constantly giving me
difficult to
stuff.
find these people? Have you ever thought about it? I mean, it seems like it seems like a no-brainer, honestly, for people to get free seeds on a regular basis from a breeder that needs testing on a regular basis. It seems like an absolute
Yeah.
no-brainer to jump into that pipeline. I've known, I don't know how many people on Instagram, whatever. Noob Grows is a wonderful example of this. Anybody that sends him fucking seeds, he'll grow it, and he'll take wonderful pictures, and you'll get hundreds of freaking hits on your Instagram as a result of that. Why wouldn't people follow that up? Why wouldn't people try to do that? I guess I'm asking a rhetorical question, like, why is there war? But like it's a little bit idiotic, like, why wouldn't people sign up for that kind of stuff? Why is it so hard to find these people? Have you ever thought about it?
I don't know. I don't know whether it's they get the idea they want to test people. They just got finished with a grow and they did a good job. Like, oh, I can do this and take pictures and make whatever, and they get all stoned and forget what they're doing. I don't know. I mean, they hit up like 5 people at once with the same exact proposition. Hey, I want to be a tester. Next thing you know, they get a bunch of beans and they don't know who to start with. They can only start one person, so they start one person, and by the time they get 2 more grows and they forget all about you, and you're just off the list. Like, oh, forget this guy. I don't know what the reasoning is. At the same time, I can imagine somebody that's got a lot of room, that could actually test a lot of plants for a lot of different people. It's hard to come by them that actually can go ahead and grow varieties and not like spend all that money with lots of grow space for nothing. Not because basically you can't be growing 20 different breeders and 5 different things from each of them and have a huge variety. Have a really good a grow up if you're trying to actually cover your expenses with all that too, depending on how big a plant you're growing, I guess, and whatnot. So I can understand where it's easier for like the real small grower to offer it up with just like a small 4x8 10 or something, because it's just they're going for head stash, or they want to grow it and take pictures as head stash, as opposed to somebody that actually is trying to sling their shit to their buddy. They're like, all right, they get 1 or 2 test grows they're happy with. Next thing you know, they're just growing everything in clone. And then you're like, oh, there goes my tester. He's got like 3 or 4 solid ones, and he's just filling his room with them now. And now that's it.
I mean, maybe Bud is a good example of this. He would be a perfect tester, but he can't really afford to be a tester because in his current setup, maybe in his old setup, he actually, used to pop seeds all the time. But in his current setup, he couldn't really afford it. He's got partners. If he didn't have partners, I
Yeah.
bet he would totally test, right? But because it's not like most of the testers that he would test are going to herm out or something, right? I think we've gotten past a lot of the herm prone testers. At least many of the breeders that I know of just don't really have herms in their gear anymore. So essentially you're testing just, I don't know, interesting qualities, right? But
Yeah.
basically with the partners, he really can't afford to jeopardize, I don't know, a quarter of the grow or something, right? To
Yeah.
getting terpenes or something, right? Or whatever the circumstances are.
You
Low
fill the
yield,
whole room up, and you're like, I found like 3 plants out of like 40 that I'm happy with. We'll grow.
yeah,
That's a waste
100%.
of a
And the
whole
partners be
room.
like, what the fuck did you didn't sell an entire
and the risk of like not catching a male in time, or even a Hermie, and seeding a whole room, which
Yeah.
has happened to me a couple times. And back in the day when the game was different, there was more margins there. Like at this point, yeah, you got to run a tight ship or you're going under.
Like right now, since I don't do much. I have a little bit for friends and families about it, really. So I have one greenhouse right now, totally filled up. I've got 3 different phenos of sugar jack in it. I got a Harvest Moon haze in there. I got a Death Row OG. I got a lethal injection. I have 2 different sweet teas. So I got a whole variety in there. It's gonna be a whole mix match of stuff. I'm just interested to see how it all does in the greenhouse. Most of those have never been in the greenhouse yet.
a joint of Harvest Moon haze. Talk amongst yourselves briefly.
How's it going, bud?
It's good.
That's
Yeah.
good. What you smoking on there?
Cheetah piss. Yeah.
What about you, D? What are you rolling up over there?
Actually, I'm just rolling up some extra that I have from that I keep. I'm trying to get
Okay.
go through, and I'm trying to go through some of it so that it doesn't go bad and old. I'm not be able to smoke it. Waste not, want not, right?
Yep. Well, anything starts getting kind of old goes into the butter bag. It all makes its way to the butter bin eventually. I like my butter
Yeah.
high CBN anyway, so it makes nice and sleepy time butter.
Oh, right on. Yeah, I don't have that luxury. I don't make butter. Cheers,
Wait,
Chris.
you're just smoking a mix right now, not a
Yeah,
particular strain.
exactly. Just a mix of all the strains I have right now. Like I have like 5 or 6 different strains I'm puffing on.
Well, yeah, over the years of knowing D, yeah, D, and he even has a list, and he's very organized with it. D has
Yeah,
sampled probably more varieties than most. We'll say that.
yeah. And I haven't even added to my list in a very long time. Like I said yesterday.
Well, every time you're on here, you're always trying whatever the new thing they got. Permanent marker, you got apples,
Dude,
you get it all up there.
I want more apples and bananas. That stuff's freaking fire. That's my fit
Yeah, I
top.
really like that apples and bananas. It's a really complex flavor too. I'm digging this Harvest Moon Haze. I wish I would have taken a clone of it. I was saying basically for the majority of the flowering time, my caretaker's brother took care of my plants, so I'm lucky that I even had any survive to the end. And on top of it, this one was neglected as fuck, basically, but I still got maybe not 2 ounces off of it, but I'll probably get at least an ounce and a half, which is it's a miracle for this last grow because like I said, I was gone for 6 weeks, right? So I was not planning to be gone for 6 weeks, but I was gone for 6 weeks. Anyway, so really happy with this. It almost smells a little bit more like Oaxacan. It's this kind of salty, armpity, super silver haze smell. So I'm excited to have a puff of it. And all the sugar leaves, you probably can't see it very well, but all the sugar leaves are frosty. So this could have been a really nice washer.
Well, speaking of the apples, like my partner who
A little larfy,
pays no
but it's
attention to
still
cannabis
pretty
online
good.
or like
Yeah,
what's
it's not that bad.
happening outside, like
Mhm.
Oh, there's a
he doesn't
lemon
pay
twist.
attention to any of that. I was telling him that, yeah, apples, bananas in the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, I've noticed has like taken root, meaning, oh, they have it in the East Coast, they got it in Canada, and more people like it's a being grown by more people. And then when we were talking, yeah, it's almost 3.5 years since our other buddy gave us the cut of apples. And yeah, I mean, in SoCal, it was a thing like 3.5 years ago. But then, like, what I noticed is, oh, it is a really good strain, and certain people really like it, the high and the stone of it. And then it took whatever time, a couple years, and then it rose to where, yeah, it got spread around a lot. Other people bred with it too, but there's people producing apples and bananas like all over the country. Kind of got popular. Where at the same time we got cheetah piss in the same time frame. Uh, hey, I personally think I like that weed better, right? Myself, it works better for
You
me.
like cheetah piss better than the apples?
Yeah, the stone, like
Uh,
it really works well with my endocannabinoid. Like
I get
I
you.
like it.
Cheetah piss, I
Like
think, definitely
like
is a
we
little bit
even talked
stronger.
about this. Like, oh, I think that strain and the how it got the name. It's a burners collab. Like trying to play off the cat piss, which I remember first time I even had it, I was like, well, this isn't
Not
very,
pissing at
I
all.
there's
Yeah.
nothing pissy about it, but except the name, that it's like a situation where if you named it something else, it might have had better traction. Like sometimes names, even apples and bananas years ago, my first customers, like they liked it. They weren't complaining, but like I remember them going, "Yeah, I don't know, is it like supposed to smell like apples and bananas?" And I'm like, "Well, no, but it's
I remember
dank and funky."
Smashed said it had something to do with a fuck. I don't remember which kids show, but there's some famous kids show or a YouTube channel for kids, and I guess it was a song from that show or something. Apples and
Yeah.
bananas. He was singing. I remember he was like singing it. He apparently knew it. So we'll
And
have to
when you
ask
look
him.
at the lineage, it's not like, oh, it's the apple fritter crossed into the banana. Oh, it's the
100%.
but sometimes names are like, even though it's not something we would do. Like if we changed the name of Cheetah Piss, just gave it its our own name, it would probably have like more traction. It's weird how like names
Oh,
kind of
you're
do.
good.
Like when you to customers, because a lot of people, and even some people I know, they're not in tune like we are, like daily or with the whole cannabis community and what's hot and all that. Most of them, um, they don't pay attention to any of that, right? Um, but a couple of them, like oh, they hear about a certain thing and then will ask me. Usually years after it's already been played out, like in the whatever the cannabis cultivation scene. Like they'll ask, "Oh, I heard about this one," or and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was like 3 years ago." It's like a slower. The information gets out there, but like at a slower. Like at a certain point, it just becomes word of mouth. It's not like internet. You know what I mean?
I was gonna say we can maybe wrap up the testing conversation maybe because I wanted to see what North Star thought of that last article we talked about yesterday where weed is too strong and shit. Anyway, I guess I was gonna just kind of wrap up with my thoughts on testing. I would like it to still be viable, but I feel like the time has passed. And like you say, North Star, every single one of your concerns, I experienced the same thing. And so basically you can assume that every single breeder, whether they are whether they have a gigantic following and even famous people following them, or teeny tiny backyard breeder, they're basically going to have the same experience where the predominant majority of the people who request testers are actually going to, in one way or another, not provide useful data. They're either going to basically just ghost and never be heard from again, which is always surprising. You're like, really? Like that's all it took for you to vanish off the face of the earth? It's a little bit bizarre, right? But then a lot of times they just won't tell you anything they did, or when they do, it'll be because they bred it to something else, and you're like, that wasn't really the point of this whole operation. Anyway, long story short, a lot of the testers don't provide useful data. And so it's like,
Okay,
why
but
even
like
bother, you
like
know?
haven't you all found like the exception to that rule where, oh, it turned out that this person, and now it's years later and they've really helped you a lot, and
And I think
like,
that's the key there is that you have to have not only a social media following, because for example, Masonic, I'm sure has a way better following than I do, but I have a kind of a dedicated group of people who I don't know, I think they consider themselves a part of the community, but maybe friends of the show and so on. So I don't have to shout them out one by one, but a few people basically, actually around the world, who have tested my beans and will, I think, continue testing. They've basically asked to test lately when I asked, and I'm sure in the future they'll be around. Probably they'll be around to test. So those folks, I think, simply because they feel that they're part of the community, and they would feel disappointed if they disappointed the community. They don't pull that shit. You know what I mean? I don't whatever. I don't know if they're better or worse people, but they just are different. They act differently. But that's kind of hard to find. It's like, fuck, you have to have like a loyal following of people to even begin to actually test something. It's a weird situation. I
Well,
don't know.
a
It's
few years ago, I was cracking a lot of seeds. Some of them were like people. I guess I was testing. I don't know. They sent me their gear before they even had put it out. Modern Epigenics. All her gear was good, but not to mention names. I remember, like, yeah, I'm the type that, like, if it was a weird Eddie plan, it didn't cut the mustard. Yeah, I just wouldn't say anything about it. It's like, I'm not like, what's the golden rule? Like, if you got nothing good to say, don't say it. Right. And so, like, if people followed me and I'd be all excited about X, Y, and Z, but then I only talked about Y and Z, that would probably mean, yeah, that was a clue that, like,
X wasn't so hot.
yeah. And like, oh, I guess I could have communicated that back to the person. Yeah, I didn't think that conversation would go too well. Like, some people don't know how to take, I guess, constructive criticism, or, like, I mean, isn't that the point? You're testing there's
I'd like to know,
there's
yeah.
you want the truth, right? Even if
I want to know
something
those
is
issues.
is,
Exactly.
is putting out weird eddies and isn't consistent, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And then you get into people that are really skilled at growing. Yeah, a lot of them are caught up in their own thing. So your pool of prospective people are probably newer home growers that maybe they just, as far as taking pictures and showing it off, well, unless it's looking really, and their grow capabilities are part of it too, right? Like, it takes some time to get good at this. Like, it's just, what do you call it? Like, oh, there's beginner's luck. I've seen that 100 times. like,
No,
oh
I
my
think
God, the
humidor's right
first
when it
time
comes
they
to
set
like
this
the
thing
whole
up.
like community, like they're like part of a team when they're testing for you. They feel like it's all part of, like, it's all, you're all in the same
Yeah.
team here. Like, they're all helping to get stuff together. And I think that sense that they're like, as they're helping out, goes a long ways. I mean, myself, I really appreciate my testers a lot. The ones that constantly give me feedback every year for Christmas. I send handmade Christmas gifts along with seeds to my testers. Something I make out of the wood shop, something like a resin jar, something I make the seeds in, some kind of custom thing. Just a way to thank them every year, because it's hard to find consistent people that can test. I understand sometimes when I'm not gonna be testing for the next 6 months. I'm getting ready to pack my house up, moving somewhere, blah blah, whatever. I understand that, but the fact that these people in general are constantly finding time to test my gear and then take time, where a lot of them mail me in the mail, handwritten on the test report sheets with pictures and stuff, and or even they can email me the reports too. So just the time it takes to fill them out and take notes along the way and make notes of things for me, like, and difficulties they had with certain plants, or how much variation they had between the plants I had to expect.
And
It's
plus,
really
like, I'm
appreciated.
sure
It is
with
hard to find.
like somebody that is like a new grower, that communication with you that has some experience, well, then you probably give advice. Oh, they
Yes,
say,
new
yeah,
growers are
it's
great for
looking
that.
like this, and, well, oh,
And
well, have you tried this or that? I mean, that's
and
all
they're
part
also
of
a
it
great
too.
test for seeds. So you can send them a variety of seeds, stuff that I can send them something I know is going to be simple to grow, pretty easy, and then I can send them a couple things I know are going to be harder, and see how they do with it. If they send them, I send them some kind of like a Panama OG cross that's going to be lanky and long flowering and shit. I know they're going to have a hell of a time with it, but if they actually grow it and have pretty good success with it still, that's pretty good. 'Cause that's even a beginning grower can grow a difficult kind of plant. Then they have some skill, and the plant is not that finicky. So it gives me an idea there where I'm working with. So having the new growers is good for that too. You get to see some of the basic rookie mistakes, just feeding everything full strength and all whatnot, and torching plants and all that, and you can help them with that. But you also get to
Or
see how your plants deal with some of the extra stress you're putting on your
over, I
plants.
think, like, the first rookie mistake, most common, is overwatering in
Okay.
general, and too much.
In
Too
gardening,
much.
period. Yeah, but you
Yeah.
could basically solve probably 99% of all gardening issues by just not overwatering. But it's difficult not to overwater. That's the first wrong instinct that everybody has, basically. It's kind of funny. I think it's one of the reasons why it was easier for me to learn gardening because I have a tendency to underwater. Literally, I have a tendency to underwater. And so I have to remind myself to water a little bit as opposed to overwatering, which again, almost everybody does. And so you can correct the underwatering more easily than you can correct the overwatering. So I swear to shit, I think my learning curve has been simpler as a result of that. I'm not even kidding. So I always tell people if you, when in doubt, underwater, literally,
Mhm.
like water more often and less, and you'll get further than you would by overwatering or even taking a chance at overwatering. Anyway, it's a funny way to look at the world, I guess.
That's part of my morning routine every day. That's one number one thing. I actually crawl through my freaking greenhouses. I have nets up, so they're only like 4 foot off the ground, so I can't walk through it. I have to crawl
Hmm.
on my hands and knees, and I put my hand between the pot bottom and the pot. And
Yeah.
if I go, oh, it's a soggy wet one this morning, you ain't getting water today.
Hmm.
Unless it's going to be like 95 out and it's going to be torching hot, then I don't give you a drop of water at all. If it's going to be wicked hot, then you might get a little bit of water in the afternoon so you'll soak it up. I don't want you to stress out from getting too dry. But generally, you do that. I can feel the weight of the plant a little bit, and you see how wet the bottoms are. And I got to have to go and individually. They're all on a drip system, so that I have to go and tie off
Well,
individual drippers.
like my
Some other plants need
experience
water,
is,
and ones don't, and I have to go through and make all these adjustments of what plants get water this day and which ones don't.
and like Fumi touched on it, for all these years of my indoor growing, has been about going on little excursions. So there's a certain amount of automation. And way back for years, I used to ebb and flow veg. So veg was had automatic watering, right? It's been a lot of years since I abandoned that because the reality of veg is, yeah, they all get hand watered, but like, oh, there's different stages, within the veg. Uh, yeah, that's where there's no, like, you can't find some happy medium and water them all once a day, ebb and flow. Like they get the best growth and the best out of the plant. I need to be able to hand water them. Some of them don't get water for every few days. Some of them need water every day. Uh, Different stages, and yeah, hand water veg, which limits, uh, like, well, that's why I partner over here because that's when, hey, I'm out of town. You got to water veg. Now he's always saying, dude, why don't we set up the ebb and flow? And like I said, nah. I mean, it works. Like overall, that works. That's a method. But you, veg now in flowering, I've automated. But by that stage, I know how much water they need, per cycle watering. But in veg, yeah, I had water with a wand, like a pump and a hose with a stake zip tied to the hose. I've done that for like, I know you can buy things and you can even get like a real uh, like hose with a sprayer thing or whatever. But yeah, I just used the black tubing and a pump and then put a bamboo stake on one end of it and zip tie it for it's like a wand, I call it. And I've done that for like 30 fucking years.
I carry around 5 gallon buckets of water with a pitcher.
Yeah, well, when I was first doing this as a young guy in apartments, we used to use 5 gallon buckets and we'd fill them up in the bathtub. And I during those years, periodically, I'd throw my back out like sciatica, like really
Fuck yeah.
bad. And I figured out, yeah, because when you're 5 gallon bucket, and I was younger and like stronger then, but it was an unnatural movement to like lean into a bathtub to pick up a bucket like that. That was where it was like straining my back. And even then, yeah, that's when we first like got a maxi jet pump and some 1 inch line or three, whatever and and yeah, moved water that way because yeah, picking buckets out of a bathtub, it's like you got to lean in. It's not a whatever they call that. Like I've learned I haven't had my back go out because I think before I fucking lift and do stuff. But when I was
Lift
younger,
with your
oh yeah,
knees, not your back.
I used to throw my back out.
Before we bounce out of here, North Star, I wanted you to see this article. It was really something else. We went through most of it yesterday, but it was an interesting mix of bullshit and reality. Bud can testify towards the end of it. Basically, the guy starts to actually make sense again, where he starts to talk about the MSOs that basically are dominating the freaking weed industry around the country. He talks about, for example, what fuck, it was Minnesota, I want to say, that had like three MSOs. Virginia has like four. Like basically, the weed market's being taken over. Here we go.
Well,
Uh,
but like you
Minnesota's
should
15 medical
preface
dispensaries
this.
are owned by two
That
MSOs.
you
All
should
20.
preface it
Let
for
me
it
finish
makes
my
sense.
thought, Bud. Bud, let me finish my thought. All 23 of Virginia's are owned by three MSOs, multi-state operators. Anyway, so these fuckers are basically taking over. Go ahead, Bud. What were you saying?
That it's in the Atlantic, which is like a conservative
I wouldn't say it's
rag.
conservative. It's very it's an old magazine, and it's basically, I would say it's a relatively new
Political.
magazine, but
Like who
it's yeah, it's
like
kind of a
who re,
political cultural magazine, yeah, and it's
which
very well
when
known.
you read that whole thing, the first thing that came to my mind is, yeah, this guy's laying out talking points that like different politicians could read that and then mimics, and grab onto the things he was pointing out as like talking points. Like I thought,
So
yeah,
broadly
that's the
speaking,
purpose of that.
let's tell North Star a little bit about this article. So the title is by Malcolm Ferguson. Marijuana is too strong now. As weed has become easier to obtain, it has become harder to smoke. Let's see here. He says, oh my God, the paranoia and the dread. Quote, the density of the nugs is crazy. They're so sticky, which again, most of us I think would consider a good thing. But this guy basically is trying to say it's really bad. He's talking about how, once upon a time the THC levels were 5 to 16%. Now, oh my God, you'll never even find that. You find 20 to 30%, maybe vaping as high as 90. And then he says, oh my God, for the average weed smoker who wants to take a few hits without getting absolutely blitzed, this is frustrating. For some, it can be dangerous. And in the past few years, reports have swelled of people, especially teens, experiencing short and long-term, quote, marijuana-induced psychosis, with consequences including hospitalizations for chronic vomiting, auditory hallucinations of talking fucking birds.
This guy needs to go ahead to the
What
shop
else?
and buy like shake joints.
Dude, I don't even know. Oh, later on, he basically says that no, a friend of his admits to having bought a joint from a dispensary and apparently tweaking out on the street as a result of it. And I was just fucking, I was rolling my eyes. I couldn't even. It's
But
interesting.
then
Like
the
there was
second
some
half
interesting
of
stuff in
it,
this article, but got a
he
lot of
na-
bullshit. Go ahead.
like in the second half of the article, he nails, encapsulates some of the most major problems
Hmm.
within the cannabis thing, which is weird. That
What's the
at
big
first
one?
he's like so out of touch, but then all of a sudden he zeroes in on like the actual uh, issues with the MSOs and a bunch of, I forget all the other things. He seemed to like all of a sudden miraculously be in touch. It was weird.
Here, I posted a link in the YouTube chat, and in case anyone on the panel wants it, there it is in our private chat. I found it on Reddit, of course, as I do just about everything. Yeah, it's really interesting. Like this guy, he smokes weed and stuff, but he's just like, oh, the weed is so fucking strong, I can't even. But the
Well,
funniest thing is that this is not that unusual of an opinion. I went to a weed comedy show. It was a weed themed comedy show with a couple of friends. This was a few months ago, but basically, it was the whole premise was it was three comedians. And it was in Portland, but I guess they toured a couple different towns. But anyway, unfortunately, they haven't come back, so maybe it's not doing their thing anymore. But they traveled around the country, and there were three comedians, and they basically each did a set sober, and then basically did intermission and went outside. Everybody went outside, and they were like, "Oh, if you don't have any weed, we have plenty of weed donated, I guess, from dispensaries or something." And everyone basically could smoke up outside, and the comedians purposefully get stoned, basically, like they actually make sure that the comedians smoke, and then the comedians come back and try to to do a set, and then laughs ensue because the comedians are all fucking stoned off their minds, because most of them have no tolerance. Like the one chick from New York, she was just like giggle,
Okay,
giggle,
but
giggle, giggle.
okay,
It was pretty fucking funny.
the thought I have about the weed being too strong. Okay, okay,
Well, let me finish
we
my
all
thought,
agree
Bud, before
well,
Bud,
wait, real
let me
quick.
finish the story.
All right.
Bud, hold on, let me finish the story. So as we're sitting at this freaking weed themed event, my friend's, well, I guess now ex-boyfriend, but they were dating at the time, a nice enough guy. He was like, so they knew that I grow weed and stuff, and that I breed cannabis seeds and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, dude, what about the really strong weed?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? What about the really strong weed? You want to find some?" And he's like, "No, no, 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 no. It's too strong." And I'm like, "What? Tell me more." And he's like, "No, man, I've been smoking for many years. And apparently he's been growing for many years. The dude is like not some anti-weed person or something. Like he literally grew it in California, up in the hills somewhere with his family. So he's actually familiar with weed. He just used to grow shit like, I guess, Blue Dream and whatever, and it wasn't very strong when he grew it. And he's like, where can I find the weed that doesn't make me all crazy?" I was like, what a weird problem. We were just kind of laughing because I was like, what the fucking weird problem. Anyway, Bud, go for it.
Well, the thought I had is we all kind of agree that a lot of the numbers out of the labs are exaggerated, right?
Hmm.
And most of that weed isn't even that strong, really, right? Like the high THC weed, right? But people that hear about it, it turns into this type of conversation that the weed's so strong, right? Where I mean, I don't believe in like 40% numbers or even super high 30 numbers. I think labs, there's a whole issue with like how the lab thing works.
I think it's about the clientele, the customers. They do a lot of purchasing off of THC numbers. People that buy a lot at shops, and I think that has the shops are like, we want high THC, and that gets passed on down the trait to where the people that are organizing all the grows, they want certain strains that are going to come in at 30% every time. I think if they had, more a more experienced clientele that would like different, had more finer tastes, they might want a little something lighter and uplifting for the morning as opposed to getting bombed out after work every day. Or if they had operators that ran the shops that were more in the know, that could actually inform their customers a little better about different types of cannabis. They may be more open-minded to something at 18% with a high terpene level that actually makes them feel great, as opposed to making them feel paranoid or knocking them out. I think it turns into basically the growers.
Great observation, Bud. Let me interject. Great observation about it. Basically, he even talks about, oh fuck, I lost my train of thought because I just got high. All right, Bud, back to you.
But yeah, but I jump in real quick because I actually got to get going. I have a couple things I have to do before I get off. So,
cheers.
Let me say thanks for having me on.
Welcome.
My Labor Day sale for Genetic Supply is still going on. Now we have new menus. Panama Red menus on sale. Colombian menus on sale. Purple Quebec Cross menus on sale. Labor Day 24 for extra 24% off everything. Yeah, that's it.
North Star, good to see you. I just remembered what I was going to say. Good to see you, North Star. He was saying in the article, this guy Malcolm was saying that the majority of the weed market are heavy consumers, people who consume weed more than 25 times a day. And these people apparently are the ones dominating the need for the high THC weed. And I remember thinking, no, I don't think that's the case. I think he's actually got it backwards, that a lot of the more experienced consumers are smart enough to know that that high THC weed is not really what they're looking for. And what they're looking for oftentimes would be something like a 19% blueberry or a freaking 20% train wreck. And that'll give them much more high than a 35% quantum kush or whatever the fuck, or some gelato that's at 42%. I think the guy actually had it exactly backwards, and that actually it's the new consumers, the kind of light smokers that don't know anything about weed, and they only look at the THC number and they equate, higher number must be bigger high. So they buy 35% when it shows 35. Oh, if you have a 47%, they'll buy that one, even though it's fucking nonsense, right? But that new consumer doesn't know the difference. So yeah, again, another thing that guy got backwards, basically. Anyway.
And for sure, like now that I don't do much testing or any, I have a little, but like some of the weeds I remember being the strongest and the best are like high teens, 20% weeds,
Yeah.
right? Like OGs and uh, even the Blackwater that was so good. Yeah, that tested at 19% when it got the cup. And then I followed up with that lab a couple times with different batches and got it up to like 21%, right? But that weed was killer, like the period. And so yeah, people like us kind of know that, but oh, mainstream gets sold this whatever the fuck people want to write and you know, yeah,
And you can pretty well guarantee that this guy has never really spoken to a cannabis breeder in his entire life, because basically any cannabis breeder worth their shit is constantly looking backwards at the genetics. They're looking far back into the genetics, not basically into the present day. You know, they always say you should live in the moment like a dog, right? Well, if you lived in the moment in the cannabis genetic pool, you'd be basically swimming in inbred cesspool, essentially. So when you look at power, I mean, even though we praised apples and bananas, I wouldn't look at apples and bananas to start the beginning of my breeding career. I would basically cross something to apples and bananas because I think it'll be nice, but I probably wouldn't. I mean, you can always go with that line because, apples and bananas has the really interesting multifaceted flavor, right? But I wouldn't basically say, oh, I'm gonna finally bring some power to my lines with apples and bananas. Or rather, if you did say that, it would mean your lines are really, really, they lack all power, basically. No criticism to apples and bananas, but what I mean to say is that you're going to go backwards. You're going to go back to fucking land races. You're going to go back to some shit that your uncle found in Afghanistan 25, 30, 40 years ago. You're going to get something that your grandpa had in a seed jar that he brought back from World War II, whatever, right? Like you're going to look for stuff like that because it's going to have been unmessed with. That's
well,
one of the reasons why I was so excited about the Coot special stuff, because Coot supposedly got it from the source basically once upon a time. And sure enough, basically having run with it, it's this semi-untouched, very heavily sativa stuff with these really ethereal head highs, with this, just kind of thumping stuff that you can't really find in every cookies cross that you can find now, in every gelato's cross that you can find now. No disrespect really to forum cook cookies or gelato in terms of smokability, but in terms of like long-term breedability, you're not gonna, especially now, you're not going to start a new fucking seed line from forum cut cookies or something, right? So it just completely misunderstood the seed market. Oh, weed has become powerful because they're breeding it into some monstrosity. No, it just really misunderstands stuff. We go back in time to stuff that, fuck, if nothing else, we'll call blueberry one of our foundational crosses. Blueberry already was bred, but from a bunch of stuff. But blueberry is only what, 18 or 19%. But every time I smoke it, I get nice and fucking stoned. Nice and high, rather. I don't
exactly,
know, kind of a balanced high.
exactly.
What were you going to say, Bob?
Well, I think like if you could switch the legal market, the bud tenders, it would be instead of based on this high THC thing, which I understand how that happened, be more on the entourage effect, which is like that's what the guy in Israel, I forget his name, that basically white papered the entourage effect, which means, oh, it's not just the THC, it's a combination of all these different things that give you the effect.
Hmm.
And that be more of what people were exploring and finding rather than going, what's the highest THC? Oh, let me buy that.
That's the thing. Someone who really does smoke 25 times a month probably actually has a tolerance, probably actually knows what gets them stoned, what doesn't get them stoned, already has some preferences for strains. Basically when you smoke 3, 4, 5 times a month, you probably just buy whatever the bud tender tells you is good, and you don't really remember the last time, oh, what was it again that we bought last month? I've had friends that are like that, right? They're not anti-weed or anything. They're not weed haters. They're just very light smokers basically, and they forget what they smoked before. If you tell them, oh, were you smoking Grease Monkey, or I don't know, was it fucking cookies or gelato, they're like, oh, that sounds familiar. because it's one of the strains that they've smoked in the past, right? You got to have tolerance, I think, for a variety of different people in the market, but at the same time, where am I? Lost my train of thought. I started talking about something else. Anyway, I
Well,
think
if you're occasional smoker, meaning like twice a week, not daily, yeah, I mean, weed has real strong effects. Like
Mhm.
we all like a lot of us smoke daily, but we were new at some point where holy shit, we got you just zonked out of your mind. Yeah, some people that don't smoke very often, yeah, it almost doesn't matter what they smoke.
Now, isn't
Like
that
it's
funny? An experienced smoker can pretty much do anything on weed, right? We can for the most part, we can do our taxes, we can make complex financial decisions. One can argue with it whether or not they were good decisions, but we can definitely make the decisions while we're smoking. We can watch movies and so on. But a light smoker, oh my absolute fuck, they can't even. You couldn't trust them to make you a sandwich. They might use fucking spackle instead of mayonnaise. I mean, you know what I mean? Why does this taste awful? Oh, you sprinkled a little bit of Comet on my
Now
pizza.
you meal.
Shit. What's that, D?
Oh shit, I forget the name of that stuff now. The stuff the Aussie guys eat.
Oh,
Um,
Marmite,
yeah, Vegemite.
Vegemite.
Ugh.
I saw that at the store the other day. I almost bought it just for giggles. Wait, which one did they have? No, they had Marmite. They had oh, which
Yellow
one is
one,
which? One is from Australia and one is from the UK, I want to say. Uh Vegemite is which one is the
Aussie.
yeast one? Is it Marmite or are they both yeast? I could look this up, but I want to remember. All right, I guess I'll just look it up. Which one is Marmite? And on that, we'll fucking bounce here, gentlemen. And
Yeah,
so
I
Marmite,
I watched a video of course, Coral Rock, and they
British.
were back. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, but it was invented by the German scientist Justus von Liebig.
Scheiser.
Uh, wait,
Vegemite is
von
Aussie.
Liebig, the other, the von Liebig. Is that the same guy as the fucking law of minimums? Don't even tell me that Marmite was invented by the von Liebig law of minimum guy. Von Liebig law of minimum. Justus von Liebig, the law. Are you fucking serious? And nobody's made this connection before. So Liebig's law of the minimum, right here. You guys have probably seen this because they used to hand this out all the time at grocery stores because the nutrient companies always wanted you to buy the jug of whatever the fuck, magnesium or some shit, because they're like, well, but the barrel, if the barrel is down here and it's leaking, then you'll never fill up the barrel, bro. Well, that was from an actual thing called the Liebig's Law of the minimum. Liebig's Law of the minimum, often simply called Liebig's Law or the Law of the minimum, is a principle developed in agricultural science by Karl Spranger in 1840 and later popularized by Justus von Liebig. It states, oh, okay, so he didn't invent it, but popularized it, perhaps. That's the distinction. It states that growth is dictated not by total resources available, but by the scarcest resource, the limiting factor. The law
Oh,
has been
gross.
applied to biological populations and ecosystem models for factors such as sunlight or mineral nutrients. So apparently, this is the same guy that developed goddamn Marmite. That's the Liebig's barrel right there, by the way. So if you guys have seen that,
Oh,
so let's assume that that's nitrogen, right? I mean, it could be anything, right? But whatever you're lacking, it's basically never going to fill up above that, basically. And so even if you have an absolute shit ton of phosphorus and an absolute shit ton of iron and an absolute fuck pile of available calcium and on and on and on, but if you're missing again, whatever it is, magnesium, manganese, nitrogen, doesn't fucking matter. Many people have started to focus on silicon, right? And they started to add all the different so-called available silicas, right? uh or silica rather. Anyway, I'll stop talking.
kiwi. That's it.
I'm really amused that that's the guy that invented Marmite. That's just too ridiculous for words. All right. The more you
So in
go for it.
Vegemite is Australian and Marmite is the devil's tar. Apparently, says cake in a cup.
So, according to Wikipedia, the product that was to become Marmite was invented during the late 19th century when the German scientist Justus von Liebig discovered that brewer's yeast could be concentrated, bottled, and eaten. Yay.
Pfizer.
To know too, the Marmite Food Extract Company was formed in Burton upon Trent, Staffordshire, England, with God damn, that's a long name, with Marmite as its main product and Burton as the site of its first factory. The byproduct yeast needed for the paste was supplied by Bass Brewery. How funny is that? By 1907, the product had become successful enough to warrant construction of a second factory at Camberwell Green in London. By 1912, the discovery of vitamins was a boost for Marmite, as the spread is a rich source of the vitamin B complex, with the vitamin B1 deficiency beriberi being common during World War One. The spread became more popular. British troops during World War One were issued Marmite as part of their rations. How funny is that shit? All because the fucking barrel guy invented, discovered that yeast could be fucking bottled. That's crazy shit.
Well, when I was like a traveling hippie kid, somehow I got this ride with this couple called Mark Sprout and Love Sprout. And it was this panel van thing. And they had all these Sprout jars and would give them away to get gas money. It was like this crazy time. And so for like weeks while we were traveling from North Dakota to New York, yeah, we would eat these sprouts and put brewer's yeast on it, sprinkle brewer's yeast on it. Like that was our whole diet, right? Yeah, that was rough, but I guess there was some proteins or something you needed in the brewer's yeast. You couldn't just survive on sprouts alone.
Oh, cake. That's pretty
Oh
gross.
yeah, I guess you're like what was it? You can technically survive on potatoes, but you need vitamin E and something else. You need like two other things. So you basically need to eat dairy, essentially. So that's how the Irish got away with basically eating potatoes and the dairy from their farmed cattle. Basically, they weren't allowed to eat the cattle, but they were allowed to how do you say it? They were allowed to dairy their cattle. Is that the expression? Well, whatever. They were allowed to get milk and
Milk.
stuff from the cattle. I guess the cattle belonged to the land, to the Lord, uh, or maybe it was simply that they were I don't even remember. I think it was simply that they were
How
too
do you?
expensive, honestly, by that point, because the feudal system had been abolished. So it's probably just that the fucking cattle were too expensive to eat, honestly, and so they just ate potatoes and fucking milk. And when the potato blight happened, all they had left was milk. And mind you, they had more than enough fucking food in the UK. The UK and Irish aristocrats were like, nah, just let them starve. We'll decrease the population a little bit. Anyway, that is the very esteemed High Noon Dumpster Fire to you, Jason Online. Thank you very much. Good to see you. Welcome. So I guess, folks, we're going to wrap it up. Happy belated 420 because we just missed it by a couple minutes. How do you milk a male cow? Dee will let us know on the next show. Much experimentation will ensue. Bud, would you like to go first? Go for it, buddy. Oh, and thanks, by the way, for using the headphones. It helps a lot.
Yeah, I'll talk to you guys. I'm headed to the Roxy party in San
Oh, right on.
Clemente.
Holy cow. Right on.
Roxy sponsors all the hot women surf flying.
Holy cow.
So I've gone a couple times. I get invited through a friend that's wife works there. It's definitely there's a lot of surf parties this week because of the finals. Yeah, the Roxy party is the ultimate one.
Fun. Right on, bud.
Yeah, I'll have fun. I'll talk to you guys.
He's excited.
Right on.
Go for it, D.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for all you lurkers and non-lurkers and people in the chat chilling out and grossing me out. You know who you are. Uh, don't forget to tune in Saturday, like always, for the takeover. 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 10 o'clock Pacific, if I can talk correctly. I need to get some liquid refreshment. I hope everyone has a great rest of the week and help control the pet population. Don't forget to have your pet spayed or neutered. Later.
Shindy, holy fucking shitballs. So hopefully in the near future I'll be able to get a dog again. And so I was just kind of browsing on the Humane Society website, and it's just heartbreaking how many adorable dogs are on there. And the most infuriating part is that it's not nearly all puppies. Every single one of those puppies is going to get adopted, no questions asked, I'm sure. And actually, the Oregon Humane Society is exceptional at adopting basically almost every animal that they get. So they're really good at it. But even still, it's really quite heartbreaking. There was one dog there that was 11 years old, another dog that was 9 years old. And I just think to myself, what fucking monster gives up a dog that they've had for 9 years? That's, I guess, not related to well, it is related to the spay and neuter population because there's a very good chance that that dog once upon a time was an accidental puppy or something, and they thought, oh, they'll take care of it. And then it just gets too much for them. And they give the dog up. And you have to remember, it's really heartbreaking, honestly, to think about it, but it's real life. It's not just a meme or something, like the dog or the cat is part of your life because, of course, most of us outlive, unfortunately, in many cases, we outlive our dogs and then think about them the rest of our lives. But for them, we are their entire lives. It's really heartbreaking to give up a dog, or the idea of giving up a dog.
Or
Well,
a cat.
since it's been abandoned, Jesus fucking Christ. Anyway. Sometimes the owner dies, of course, but a lot of times people, when that happens, there are provisions in the estate. If you don't have a provision in your estate, make sure that there is a provision. Somebody will take care of your dog or cat. Actually has agreed to it, not just like, oh, maybe, blah, blah, blah. Like it's a lot of commitment to take care of an animal, even a cat. So you really have to make sure that the person is going to take care of your animal if something were to happen to you. It's something I think a lot of people don't think about. Anyway, pretty tragic.
Yeah.
Uh, Same can be said for kids too, obviously, but we can only solve one problem at a time, I guess, in this life. Anyway, ladies and gerbils, yeah, seriously, cake, right? Thanks very much for joining us, folks. By the way, recently discovering, just looking at places, how difficult it is. I found some really nice deals on condos. Can't fucking do it as we're looking into it. Basically, with the very few exceptions, probably can't fucking grow. And so essentially, I'd have to grow underground quietly like a goddamn criminal again. That doesn't work for me. Honestly, it's ridiculous. I was looking at this one place with a fucking wraparound balcony with this view of the city. Oh my fucking god. Gotta just move on because that's not gonna work out. How horse shit is that, honestly, right? Seriously, how horse shit is that stuff? And I'm not gonna buy a place and then just fucking hide. That's ridiculous. So anyway, you guys don't know what I'm talking about, probably. You can probably surmise, but I don't want to go into more details because I don't want any of the crazy people to bother my private.
Kiwis.
That's pretty much what it is. When you guys see me talking very obliquely, it's because I don't want some of the crazy people that watch to fucking bother me in private life, if I can help it, obviously. Uh, what's Cake and Cup saying? Not those chips. They're called crisps. Hot chips is thicker French fries. Oh, you guys are talking about something else. We should talk about French fries one of these days. What better stoner food could you possibly find than French fries? Honestly. Ladies and gerbils, let's get the fuck out of here so I can smoke this delicious smelling joint of Harvest Moon Haze. I'm not kidding when I say I am really going to enjoy this. I think I have a couple more seeds of it left that North Star sent me. So hopefully I'm going to plant those in the near future. Really good breeding. I've always been very pleasantly surprised. North Star doesn't pay me a single, if you guys wonder, oh, I wonder if North Star sponsors the Fumi Show. Not a single penny, not one little iota. He comes here, I presume, because he enjoys it. So folks, don't assume that I'm getting a cut from North Star's business. I just wholeheartedly have always liked his breeding. So, folks, if you wonder about breeders besides me to spend your money at, there's been a few breeders in the chat that were brought up, and constructively, I won't talk shit about them, but I would say, please, if you want my opinion, I wholeheartedly recommend, if you don't want to buy my seeds for any reason whatsoever, please buy North Star seeds. And if you talked about somebody else's breeding in the chat, there's a very good chance that I find it to be absolute fucking dog shit. And I can't even express to you, I would throw them away if you sent them to me. Like I don't want to say it anymore. Well, I do want to say it more clearly, but I really don't want to start shit with anybody. There's a lot of people who I think don't really realize how bad some of the stuff that they run is. This is
Fucking
my opinion. It's just an opinion. Opinions are a lot like assholes. So of course you're free to disregard it by all means. If you'd like to know my opinion, grow North Star, grow Fumidoro. There's a few other people that I would recommend, but I wouldn't recommend some of the other people that were brought up in the chat. We'll just leave it at that. Thanks very much for joining us, my friends. As always, all of the audience. Stony Creek's in the house. Good to see you, Stony. I feel like it's been a couple of weeks since I've seen you, so good to see you, buddy. Cake and the Cups in the house. Of course, D Zombie holding it down. D, one of the actually the main moderator in the chat. I believe D Zombie and Pip Jam are the main moderators. I'm curious which one would be more powerful if you duked it out. I don't want to know. It would be like seriously be like Godzilla and fucking King Kong. We don't want the fallout from that, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody wins. The world loses. But in the meantime, don't disrespect D Zombie or Pip Jam. Pip Jam, they are the main moderators in the chat. Of course, Christoph, one of the moderators. Good to see you, my friend. La Puissance, my friend. Al Telescope Uranus is in the house. Benny Ben's hanging in the house as well. Who else in here? Jason online hanging down. He's saying, eat more veal. What else? Who else in here? Who else? Couch Flyers in the house. Good to see you. He's saying, I'd rather drink Bass. I haven't drank Bass in a long time. I honestly would also rather drink Bass than eat the Marmite, to be perfectly frank with you. Not that I hate Marmite, but it's very distinctive. It's concentrated. It's so concentrated, it's like having a dab of umami. Like it's literally on that level. Like it's basically pure umami to such a degree that you're like, no, not that much umami. Like I like umami, but not that much. It's a little too much, honestly. That's obviously debatable because, of course, a lot of people love it, but it's distinctive. It's very distinctive. I don't hate it. Don't think that I hate it, but I don't love it either. I'll be just fucking frank with you. Cake sunny side up, eggs on Vegemite toast is a regular brekkie for me.
Ugh.
A breakfast. T Zombie's not happy about that. Cake also said Marmite is the devil's tar. How funny. I am amused that you guys are so opinionated about Vegemite versus Marmite, whereas like an outside observer would be like, that's all fucking going in the garbage. But anyway, ladies and gerbils, thanks very much for hanging. Until we meet again, D, are you going to do a takeover this Saturday?
Yep, you got it, Pontiac.
Right on, sweet. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, the rich Corinthian leather, and we'll catch you guys later. Be kind, be decent, be gentle. Don't be fucking prick sticks or lunatics. Looks like Mark Rish is saying hello right at the very end of the conversation. Welcome, Mark Rish. Welcome, everyone. Stoners, how does Ninja say it? Stoners from different boners. Ladies and gerbils, lurkers, non-lurkers, you're all welcome to stop by and say hello, of course. Until we meet again, my friends, pup something wonderful. I think I forgot to say that last show, and that's it. Have a good one. Don't forget to treat someone well. Again, like Dee said, spay and neuter your pets, ladies and gentlemen, and if you can, give a dog or a cat that you know a little scritch or a little treat or something. Be kind to those little fur babies. They're not here for a long time. They're here for a good time, right? Anyway, ladies and gerbils,